This is Pranav from Smartkarma, and I'm delighted to have with me today Jesus Rodriguez Aguilar, a European event-driven insight provider on Smartkarma, to discuss the wide spread between Svenska Handelsbanken's Class A and B shares. Jesus, thank you for your time today. Could you give us a quick overview of the bank and its two classes of shares, please?
Thanks for inviting me. Well, Svenska Handelsbanken is a Swedish, one of the top banks in the Scandinavian region. And this bank has two classes of shares. A shares, which are included in the OMX30, which is the Stockholm Blue Chip Index, and B shares. A shares have voting rights, B shares have no voting rights. Both shares have the same economic rights. That means the same dividend. What I have observed since I run a monthly insight on ordinary and preferred shares, that means voting and non-voting shares in Europe, I noticed an extreme dislocation between A and B shares in Handelsbanken. At the time of the publishing of my report, the premium of B shares non-voting, less liquid, they are 30 times less liquid than Svenska Handelsbanken A shares. And as I said, they're not including major indexes. But for some unknown reason to me and to investor relations in Handelsbanken, they're trading at a 55% premium. As of yesterday, the premium was 53, which makes no logical sense at all.
Got it. If you had to kind of guess, were there any catalysts or events that led to this premium widening? And is this something that's a very recent occurrence, or is this something that's been there for the last few months?
It's been there for the last few months. It started last year, but these extremes have been happening since the end of last year. When I run that liquid universe, I see that there are some instances where non-voting shares, say some German companies, say some even Swedish companies, sometimes the non-voting shares trade at a premium, but because they're a lot more liquid. Because usually the voting shares, in most instances, are tightly held by the controlling shareholders, which usually tend to be founding families. In this case, investor relations of Handelsbanken knows nothing about this. They know that these shares have been bought by some tracking funds, which is funny, and by some retail investors. That's it.
Got it. That's interesting. And I think you mentioned, as far as you're aware, as well as the investor relations of the bank is aware, there is no economic justification for the premium of the Class B shares?
Not at all. Not at all. Usually, when I do my analysis, the main determinant of the premium or discount of voting to non-voting shares is something we call the voting ratio. And this has been studied by academics in finance. Usually, the more non-voting shares are controlled by voting shares, the larger is the discount of the non-voting shares. In this case, it's just the opposite. Very, very few non-voting shares obviously have no. I mean, they've got 1/10 of the vote of the voting shares, which means virtually nothing. They are trading at a premium. These shares make about 2.5%, I remember, of the voting power in the bank. So they're virtually irrelevant. Instead, they're trading like that.
Understood. If you had to kind of guess, what key risks or scenarios might cause this premium to, say, persist for longer if it has existed for the last few months, or widen even further for that matter?
What I tend to think is, would there be any catalyst or something, or could the premium grow even larger? I don't think this would happen. It touched, I think it was sometime in March, it even reached 60%, and then it quickly fell. Then it has grown to 55.4, then it tightened. I suspect that there might be B shares available for lending, but not a very large number still.
Got it.
If somebody is lending you shares say at 5%, which should be a lot, because when they are general collateral, usually it's 50 bips or less. But even if somebody would lend you the shares at 10%, a 10% borrow cost, you'd make $1 million when the spread tightens. So
Got it.
that is something interesting.
Understood. Well, thanks for that insight, Jesus, today. And for all listeners, do check out Jesus's insight on Smartkarma and tune into our next Smart Call soon. Thank you.